It's time we take a second trip back to England. This time we will visit the little village of Loxley, circa 1120 to circa 1247. I am renowned. I was surely a skillful swordsman as well as a cunning thinker, a prince of thieves, and a master of disguises who helped serve the King of England and treated all fairly. I was a young boy who became a legend by doing the right thing because of my unquenchable thirst for justice. Now the tales of my adventure unfold. How did I become famous? Some stories tell of an earl named Robert who lost his land, title, and castle. One day I was walking to the meadows to see Maid Marian one fine summer day. As we strolled around the glade arm in arm, I slowly lowered myself onto one knee and asked her to be my wife. Joyfully, she said yes, and the day of the wedding came around. When the vows were about to be taken, the solidly built doors of the church burst open. The diabolical Sheriff of Nottingham stepped into the room. Now, the Sheriff of Nottingham and I were sworn enemies because I was kind to the poor, while the Sheriff of Nottingham said they were beneath his dignity. The sheriff yelled to stop the ceremony because he said I was under arrest. On what grounds? I yelled. Treason against the king, said the sheriff. I am loyal to the king, I said. Seize him, ordered the sheriff. I smashed a bench over the sheriff and slipped into the forest. Some stories believe this, while others believe I grew up in a poor family. One day, me and my father were hunting the deer because we were hungry and in need of food. This was a crime that is punishable by death. Among the ferns, we waited for the deer. When I spotted a deer, I carefully took aim and shot. My simple longbow threw the arrow with extreme velocity at the target. When the deer dropped, I ran to collect my prize. Suddenly, the Sheriff of Nottingham's men burst through the emerald tranquility of the trees and rushed to capture me and my father for arrest. My father told me to run. Sprinting away, I promised to rescue my father. I began a life of hiding in the forest with a band of albinos, hunchbacks, midgets, and other misfits that people had kicked out. I met many people in my intriguing adventures, and here are a few stories about them. While I was in the forest one day, I lay down to take a nap beside a stream. Rudely, I was awakened with a sword point at my throat. An exceedingly chubby friar with a vast, expansive stomach asked me to carry him across the water. I cannot abide wet feet, he said. After carrying him across the water and revealing my true identity, I convinced the friar to join my band of misfits. A few days later, just as I was about to cross a narrow bridge, a very large and strongly built stranger stopped me. We both wanted to cross the bridge first, so we decided to have a staff fight on the bridge. The first person to knock the other off the bridge and into the water would be the winner and be free to cross. I hit Little John, for that was the stranger's name, with a stinging blow across the knuckles. Then Little John hit me a blow, sending me flying into the water. I realized he would be a valuable member, so I asked him to join my band of misfits, just as I had asked the friar. Little John agreed. Trudging through the forest one day went a sad man named Alan Adale. Me and my friends asked him of his troubles, and he told them that his wife would be wed to another man against her will. Me and my men crashed the wedding and gave the man his wife because I believed in justice. I had many adventures with my band of misfits. One day I heard there was to be an archery contest in Nottingham, so I carefully disguised myself as a potter so I could join. Unsurprisingly, by 4 p.m. the crowd had swelled to 4,000 people. I drew back my bow and bullseye! The sheriff who handed over the silver arrow was angry because his plot to lure me in for capture had not worked. Or so he thought. When the sheriff inspected the winning arrow, he realized the potter was really me. By this time I was already through the gate and safely into Sherwood Forest at my secret hideout. Among my most daring adventures was the fulfillment of the promise I had made to rescue my father. My father was in prison and was going to be hanged that very day. In order to save my father, I quickly disguised myself as a soldier. After I killed the jailer, I unlocked my father, jumped on a horse with him, and rode away with the men's shouts in my ears. It had been a couple of weeks since the sun rescued my father when I fell sick, and my men took me to an abbey to heal me. Because the prioress was in pay of the sheriff, the soup she gave me was poisoned. While I was dying, Little John lifted my head and helped me shoot my arrow through the window. Flying through the air and into the woods where that arrow fell, I am buried. I was a famous outlaw who fought for what is right. Every single person in my band of misfits was brave, obedient, and willing to fight at a moment's notice. They wanted justice because the steward who was in charge until the king came back from his crusade was unjust. Most significantly, the good deeds helped. Helped, if even in the slightest way, to shape us